This thing comes in this stupid silver. 1,300 doll hairs. Look at this thing. Brrr! Looks great actually, but the silver sucks.
We're gonna pop its face off!
I watched some homies online like rip these knobs off. Ah, yes! That one's, I'm getting sweaty now. Let's get this pry tool up in here and start blowing stuff up. That ain't gonna work. I'll just break this immediately. Oh god. Alright, so these just pull right off. About, I don't know, 30-ish minutes later, we got this off. I've never taken one of these off before, so it was a pretty simple process. I have actually never seen someone take one of these off from the new one, at least, online. So maybe this will be the first video of telling people how to do it, and I will kind of go over briefly what I did and then talk you through it when I put it back together so you have more of an idea. So this back piece right here, really the only thing holding it, the screen portion to this back piece, there's 2 screws right here, and they look like this. You pull those 2 screws, and then there's tabs on the top, and you can start leaning the whole thing forward. And in reality, the only thing actually holding this front piece with the screen and all that, once you remove these 2 screws, is these 4 clips. So you kind of lean it forward, undo these 4 clips, and the whole screen kind of pops off. And then once it's popped off, you don't want to pull too hard because there's a couple cables. There's this one right here that plugs into the back of the screen, and then there's an antenna, which is actually right here, which is for, like, I guess the Bluetooth situation that's attached to the back of this piece, and that runs in and plugs in right there with a UML or UFL, so a micro FL connector. And that plugs in right there. And these are all like very easy to plug and unplug. Seemingly there is no other plug per se. There's that plug right there that goes in here that I guess works with the screen, but that kind of just like clips in, so I would assume that would be no issue. Now when you get this off, there's a few plugs that you have to get to, and I'll try to show you them. But basically on the back side here, you can see that there's a little bit of tape right there, and there's a little bit of tape down there. You see that, like, kind of lighter colored tape? So this plugs in to the back side of here. There's like a little connector right there, and that's for the LED on the front, which is right there. Or actually that may, no, yeah, that was the LED. There's a microphone right here, and that uses a little plug that actually goes through this hole and then plugs in right here. So there's a black and white wire that plugs in right there, and the antenna wire is also ran through this hole. So it kind of runs from the side of this screen through this hole and then out the back. There were a couple ribbon cables that I had to undo. They were very, very easy to undo. The ribbon cables actually went to all the buttons, so there's just a couple screws. This thing goes on the back side here, and there's like 3 screws on each side, and the ribbon cables are very easy to unplug. They actually plug in right here, so you just pull this little black piece back, and the ribbon cable kind of comes up and out. There's like a little keyed section, and once you do that, you can remove all the buttons. They just like slot in. There's no actual like plastic holding them in. And then I taped off that front LED because it's actually like kind of soldered. I don't know if you can see the back up there in the corner, but there's actually like where they melted the plastic to hold that little grate in for the LED. And then the microphone is up here in the corner and it's glued in, so I just taped that. I didn't necessarily need to, and you can see the Bluetooth antenna actually taped right here underneath. There's just a piece of a PCB with an antenna, and I just taped that up. So again, I taped this, and then for the microphone, I literally just took some cotton from a Q-tip and just stuffed it in the hole. I don't think there's going to be any issue with paint getting there, and I can just pull that out later and it'll be as if it was perfect. So I'm going to spray this with some Sim black interior paint right here, and hopefully that's a close enough match to the interior stuff. I don't really see it being a problem. Wow, that was kind of precarious. Left right there. Yeah, and then I'll put it back together when that dries. But yeah, when I put it back together, I'll go through the assembly process because I feel like that's going to be more tedious than the disassembly process. And if you see me put it back together, then you'll obviously be able to recreate that in reverse. Put this thing back together. Here's what it's gonna look like, and I think honestly it looks pretty damn close, and trying not to scratch anything. Alright, let's put these back in. So they just kinda slip back in there. And then we got this little circuit board here. I'm hoping this rubber doesn't fall off. But yeah. So I'm gonna put this back in, which was our LED that goes up here in the corner with this little tiny screw. Get the fuck out of the way, bro. Little tiny, let me turn my light on so I can see. Cool, so we got USB, we got all that, it's sorted. Alright, so we'll make sure all the buttons work before I do all this work. Buttons seem to work, nice and smooth. So what I did is I was working on putting a backup camera. I really like this like upper plate style backup camera, and I'm going to kind of show you how I routed it. But I found some guys online and they were like, oh, it's such a pain in the ass, blah, blah. Just a bunch of crybabies. Maybe a little harder on a non-GT3 because it has a rear interior, but anyways, there's this grommet that's behind this grommet. I'll try to show you. But basically, get the light up in there. It is that grommet deep in the background back there. I pulled this grommet right here, and I pulled the interior, which I'll walk you through really quickly because it's super easy, but obviously this is a GT3, so might be a little harder than something else. But bunch of pull tabs, this pulls out, then there's one screw, I think up and around this area, that holds all this to the wall. That whole panel comes off. There's one speaker cable right here. And then there's a piece of sound deadening that I pulled from right there. And anyways, there's another grommet back in that corner. See it right there. There's like a little tiny nipple. You can see the nipple. And I poked a screwdriver through that nipple, like a flathead. The flathead was only a couple inches long. And then I actually got on the other side and I poked a screwdriver straight on, moved this out of the way, and then just poked a screwdriver in there into that other grommet, kind of close to the, if this was the, like, if the cable was here, I poked just on the other side of it. And then I took a zip tie and I fed a zip tie, just a little, like, it was like a 10-inch zip tie. And I just stuck a zip tie through that little grommet in there. And somehow, these are two different grommets as far as I know. Somehow it went through the hole and came out right here. I don't know if they're two different grommets, but anyways, it came out through the hole. And then I just taped, like literally just electrical taped my backup camera wire to it and pulled it through. And then I ran it through here, and I haven't tucked it yet, but there's a hole in the backside behind the airbox, and that hole runs to here. And this is going to be behind the license plate. And then I pulled this right here, which is, there's one screw right there, and then you pull up on that, pop up on that, and then I just kind of pulled the carpet out of the way and tucked that little wire and ran it up. And I actually pulled this carpet back a little bit here and ran the wire up, and then here's the wire. And I'm going to tuck that underneath the dash and connect it to the head unit. I don't want to fully tuck everything away until I've tested it, but yeah, that's the running of the backup camera. I'm exhausted, but I figured out the backup camera situation. There was a weird scenario where it wasn't triggering, and I had to end up finding the reverse situation, the reverse trigger, and I couldn't do it from the taillight, so I had to do it from under the dash, and I had to figure out what pin it needed to go into. So anyways, I'll just give you the hacks. Over here, there's a black and blue wire. See if I can zoom in on this thing. It's black with blue stripes. That is the reverse wire. So I tapped into that thing, ran it across the top, and then on the back of this nugget, there is a 6-pin connector. I'll show you over here instead of pulling it out because it's very annoying. There's a 6-pin connector on the back for the backup camera, and you put that signal on 6. So right now there's like the coax and the ground, and then there's some random thing plugged in right there, which would be 5, 6, 7, 8 would be 12 volts for the camera, which is dumb because it goes to the car. I don't know why. But 6 is the one where you need to plug it in. That's where you plug in the blue thing. And I actually stole a connector from this moss connector thing because I didn't have one of these pins. So I just cut one off here because I'm not using this because my car doesn't have bows. So anyways, I'm gonna start putting this thing back together finally. I wanted to make sure everything worked before I started like putting everything back together. And yeah, I need to reroute the, well, not reroute it, but I need to route the backup camera stuff. But yeah, man, it freaking looks sick. The color is amazing. Like, it looks, you can tell on the camera, but in real life it's really difficult to tell the difference in the color as far as the plasti dip and the leather. But yeah, it's pretty good. And the volume is crazy. I have
Day 3 of my exclusive.
I have like speakers coming from Europe that hopefully will make it even better, but oh, well, the car has to be in like prime mode and then go bam. We got reverse camera. God, this shifter feels fucking sick. So anyways, what I'm about to do right now, hopefully, I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm gonna put in some motor mounts. I'm not gonna say anything because it might hurt me, but yeah, I'm gonna put these in, possibly these. This has been the longest 2 days of just dealing with nonsense, but it always goes like that. But when I'm done and I'm super anal about how it all went together and it's perfect, then I don't have any regrets. But it's just the grueling time that it takes to get it right. Cool. So I'm gonna put these things in now.